Yes, people, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. My name is Derek. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you're in. I hope you're having a fantastic day. So, yeah, like the video suggests, today we're going to be answering that big question. Is architecture for you? Is it for a member of your family? Is it for anyone you think this video may apply to? Yeah, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go through my journey as an architecture student, why I decided to do architecture in the first place, the pros and cons of being an architecture student, um, advice, what I would do better, what I won't do again if I was to redo it. So yeah, just things like that, give you a little insight about architecture. So if you stay tuned, we'll get into it. Yeah, welcome back, guys. So the first part of this video is going to be about my journey. Um, so I'm gonna go back to the beginning. But before we go back to the beginning, I'd like to tell you where I'm at the moment. So I've graduated. I've done some experience in the firm for around 6 months. Um, I'm going to return back to university this coming academic year, and I'm going to carry on with my masters. So that's going to be my part two. But yeah, so my advice is um, from when you begin first year up to um, the stage where I'm at the moment. I can only give you knowledge on what I know. So yeah, so let's go back to the beginning. Um, right. So actually, I when I completed college, I completed college as a engineer. Right, I did BTEC extended diploma in engineering, and I got a chancellor scholarship. It's nothing special. Well, it basically it means you get £1,000 taken off your tuition. So anyway, I got a chancellor scholarship to go study at Leicester University. But after studying engineering for 3 years, I believe, um, I didn't really. It just did not connect with me. I didn't feel like it's something I wanted to pursue any further. Right, I did quite well at it. We did. I got a distinction merit, so that was quite good. Um, it warranted a chancellor scholarship, right? So yeah, so that's what I did, and then even before I even applied for university places, the idea of architecture had always been in my mind. Right as a kid, I always thought I want to design buildings, right? Um, in my home country where I'm from, I used to see buildings get constructed. People build their own homes with their own hands. So you see the foundations getting laid. Uh, you see the rebar getting put in the walls and so forth, right? So I've always had this fascination with architecture. So around the stage I was about to go college, in fact, before I even got into college, I was going to do art, but I didn't have a sufficient enough portfolio. So art engineering is almost like a plan B. But then I realized after completing engineering that you are able to get back into architecture with an engineering qualification, right? That I got from college. So anyway, I inquired about it at university and I was accepted, and that's how I started my journey. And the reason I thought architecture for me was because I'm quite creative. I like drawing. I like creating things. Whereas I think engineering is more about, it's not, it's a lot of maths. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not as much creation as you may think. There's a lot of mathematics involved in engineering. So I thought architecture allowed me to be a bit more creative and a bit more hands-on. So anyway, yeah, that's why I decided to do architecture. So I in fact took 2 3 years out of college, not doing it while chasing something else really. So then I decided to go to university. I went to university quite late actually. I went at 25, right? Um, so yeah, I started joining as a mature student, right? Um, so yeah, I joined at that age, which I thought, yeah, it's a good age actually, because what I found was I was in the class with younger people who were, I guess, they wanted to experience that university life, whereas I was just there to learn, right? So anyway, I joined. First impressions of architecture was, what is this thing? You get it? All this language they're using, all these terminologies they're using. What is this, right? So the first thing that hit me was I've sort of felt an imposter syndrome. A lot of people at university felt that. Felt like, oh shit, it's not what we thought. We thought architecture, art, right? A lot of the people who joined architecture, in fact, did arts at college, right? So they thought it's probably gonna be something along those lines, but no, it's not at all. It's very literal. It's not as abstract as people may think, right? So yeah, that was sort of the first thing. They're sort of realizing you're learning a whole new language. Um, but yeah, as time went on, you sort of started to understand certain things, started to understand the architectural knowledge, and realizing that architecture is just a set of rules for making buildings. So your imposter syndrome starts to slowly fade away. Then the next challenge was softwares, right? You realize that now you have to learn to use softwares, and you have to use a software that allows you to be as creative as possible. That is definitely the advice that was given to us um, by our lecturers. So that sort of um, the challenge you have to face. Now you sort of have to find what software works for you. Some softwares are a lot easier to comprehend for some people, and others aren't, if that makes sense. So I sort of dabbled with a few softwares for a while: SketchUp, Revit, Rhino. I eventually settled with Rhino. So yeah, along alongside deciding what softwares to learn, you're given projects to create. So you're given a project to create whilst you're learning to use the software to create it. So it's almost, you're never like this with software and ideas. Whatever ideas is on your head for a while between first and second year, you have your ideas, and then um your ability to create the ideas is slightly away from you because you're learning that software. But as soon as you start learning that software, you start getting closer and closer, and you sort of start getting that enjoyment that architecture can give you when you're able to manifest your creation. So yeah, that's sort of the journey. And then as time went on, you become better at it, and you start creating things, and then again new languages keep popping up and so forth. So yeah, first year, second year was quite was, I guess, they're a bit, you are, what's the word? It's not as demanding as, I guess, the third year, right? So third year came, um, and we was in COVID, but obviously we still had to work through around that. So we sort of studied from home, um, and then got to third year, the demands were a bit higher in terms of what you had to create. But anyway, managed to get through that. Created what I needed to create again using Rhino, and yeah, Rhino Twin Motion. That was sort of my main workflow. By the third year, what I realized was half the students had actually quit. Almost half the student had dropped out, right? It's probably because of that imposter syndrome that you're faced with, right? But the thing about that is if you stick with it over time, the imposter syndrome will fade away and things will start to click. You sort of get into this space where things start to click and start to make sense in your head, right? So yeah, anyway, stuck out with it. Third year came, um, graduated, completed third year, got a 2-1. So I was happy with it. Upon completing architecture, I now had to apply for a job. Welcome back, guys. So, some of you who are currently at the stage of applying for jobs or have gotten their results and thinking, oh shit, what am I gonna do? Well, here's my advice. Whether you get a 2-1 or 2-2 at first, right? What you need to realize is applying for a job is all about your portfolio. It's not necessarily about who was the best student in your year, because that's a very subjective thing, right? That's another thing about architecture, right? even some of the tutors you go to, some will like it, some will hate it, some will love it. It's very subjective what people like. It's an art, right? And it's a subjective thing. Beauty is subjective. So um, do not worry too much about whether you feel you are adequate enough to acquire a job or land a job. Just focus on creating a good portfolio. Put your best projects forward and use that as the portfolio to submit, right? So simmer it down to your best projects over the 3 years, and that is what you're going to put forth to employers, and that's what they are going to see. They're not going to see what had happened in the previous 3 years, whether you've been this, you've been that, you've done this, you've done that. They don't care. They just care about what they see in front of them. So focus on that. So anyway, um yeah, so finished uni, got a 2-1, started applying for jobs. Um, yeah, I applied everywhere. Firstly, I started locally, so I just architecture jobs, Google, and I went around every architecture firm, sending my CV, cover letter, portfolio, quick, just not a massive portfolio, like a quick 10-page portfolio, sort of streamlined down. Send that to several firms, numerous firms. Just keep sending them out, right? Even firms that didn't even do didn't even employ part ones, right? I just send them anyway. It doesn't necessarily have to say, oh, we are recruiting. Just send them out there, because you never know. Because if you're simmering through every single website for every employer trying to work out whether they employ or not, that's time wasted, right? So just send them out. Just you just keep sending them CVs out, you will land a job, right? So anyway, that's how I got a job. Um, a firm contacted me and they gave me a job, luckily, and we thank God for that, right? So yeah, that was sort of my journey from an architecture student to landing employment. The pros and cons. Right. Okay, so let's do the cons first. Like, let's get the bad stuff out the way. Let's dash it out the way, yeah? So, the cons. Well, you're unlikely to sleep properly. It's very normal. There was a time my left eye actually started twitching because I was staring at the screen for too long. So, yeah, it's bad, yeah? There was a time when my left eye was twitching. I was massaging my eyelids because I'd been staring at the computer so long and my eyes started doing doing that. It's mad, right? So you're not gonna sleep. You may get some abnormal things happen to you. Even when you do sleep, your dreams are about architecture, right? Before you go to bed, you'll be thinking, you'll be exhausting your mind about your designs and so forth. It's very normal. That's how it is. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Sometimes I get ideas in my sleep. Weirdly, sometimes the best time to actually think about ideas might even be when you lay down. Which, I mean, it's a bit of a annoying thing, because now you just want to sleep, you just want to forget about it, right? So that's gonna happen. The cons, I had to do a lot of things several times because I'm not very organized, and I did not press save whilst doing projects, and I had to repeat it. So yeah, if you're not organized, you're gonna feel the pain, right? You're gonna end up doing things over and over again, things you've worked hours for. All of a sudden your computer just crashes and that's it, you have to do it again. Whatever cons, first and second year you probably have a social life. Third year, it's probably best you don't have too much of a social life, just get cracking, because boy, it's gonna come at you fast. The workload's gonna come at you fast. So the workload, what other cons are they? Yeah, you're gonna get students, you're gonna get people that will not like your work. That's just how it is. It's very subjective. A lot of tutors are going to look at your work and say, this is rubbish. Yeah, this is a piece of, they're gonna think that's what it is, right? So don't be deterred, right? it's very subjective. People are not gonna like your work, right? I've seen students in my class who are doing quite well go to this guy, and he will make them cry, like real tears, like people physically cried. You get it? So yeah, a lot of people become very miserable, right? These are the cons. A lot of people become miserable because they're so consumed by it. Me, I'm cheerful, right? I'm banter. I'm this. I take things quite lightly, so yeah, it didn't affect me in that sense. But some of you who are not built like that may become very stressed and consumed by architecture. That's just the cons. Okay, enough of that. Now let's get on to the pros. Some people are going to love your work. You are potentially going to find employment even with a 2-1 or 2-2. You know, you may land employment, right? Pros, you're going to start understanding architecture. When things start connecting, you lose that imposter syndrome. That's a positive. Pros, you're able to reflect on your journey at incremental stages and realize how far you've come. Between where I am right now and first year, there's been a massive leap. There's been a huge progress, right? And with every challenge and obstacle, whether it's you getting hired, getting fired, whether it's someone asking you whether they think the profession is for you, right? Once you overcome those things and, you know, internalize your confidence and realize it's all about you, you will learn and you will grow, right? You know, some people may even ask you the question, is architecture for you, right? Which they have no right to, but they will ask you, right? People have opinions. They're gonna ask you, is architecture for you, right? But the pro is, right? The pro is that can actually fuel your confidence, right? That can give you a new drive, you know, to be a successful architect, right? Do not be deterred by that. Yeah, so anyway, with every failure, it just depends on how you look at it. When you have a paradigm shift, depends on how you look at it. With every tutor slating your work, cussing it, telling you it's this, it's that, with every time you submit a piece of work and you think you should get this, you don't get it. Over time, you develop a thick skin. You start realizing it's very subjective, right? You start internalizing your confidence, because if you let the external environment determine how good or how proficient you are for an architect, it will finish you. I'm telling you, because it's very subjective, and if that is what determines how you view yourself, then it's not gonna be for you. Architecture won't be for you, right? So these are the pros, by the way. These are things you're able to learn and gain over time, you know. So yeah, that is the pros and cons of architecture. Of course, once you become a fully qualified architect, you'll be able to design a building. You will understand the stages of what you have to go through to create a building. So yeah, and also once you start working in a firm as well, you appreciate architecture a bit more. You appreciate the RIBA work stages that you have to go through. You understand the deliverables for each stage. So yeah, those are the pros and cons. Yes, people, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So yeah, let's get into the advice. What I would say to people, my main advice is this. Whilst at university, make sure you acquire all the knowledge you have about softwares. Make sure you're able to learn as many softwares as you can, particularly the ones that are industry standard. Make sure you learn the softwares that are industry standards. At university, I used Rhino and Twinmotion because they were free, right? But what I would say is learn the ones that allow you to be as creative as you can, yes, but make sure these ones are aligned with the ones that they use in the industry and in the firms, because when you now make that transition from university to potentially landing a job where you need to impress and you have production capacity that you need to achieve, your transition will be a lot easier. You will not focus your time there trying to acquire knowledge on softwares because you already know them. You focus your time there on gaining continuous professional development that's going to add on to the knowledge you've learned at university, right? In order to make your learning a bit more efficient and acquire more, make sure you learn softwares that are industry standard. So Revit, AutoCAD, Lumion, right? You may learn the other ones if you wish, but ensure you also have knowledge on the others, because that way also when you're applying for jobs at a firm, you're not just applying for firms that use a particular software. It broadens the type of firms you can apply to because you now have skills in different softwares. And also be very realistic and be very honest on your on how proficient you are with these softwares, because believe me, there'll be times when you be tested, right? Once you get into a firm, there'll be times when um, you may think you know how to use the software, and in fact you don't, because you've never had to produce things in this way. At university, what I tend to do when I was using the software was sort of have YouTube open and almost follow follow what they're doing on YouTube and do it with my project. And sometimes that is not the best way to learn, because you're in fact copying and you're not able to record that information sometimes because you do not remember. Yeah, so be honest and realistic that you're quite proficient at using some of these softwares. That's my advice regarding softwares. Um, Make sure you learn the RIBA work stages. This will help you with your PEDR. So at university, they sort of um, told us that the RIBA work stages are a framework that architects use as well as other consultants, right? But what I would say is ensure you ask questions about the deliverables at every stage at university before you even get into the firms, because whether you're producing a site layout, a floor plan, whatever it is you're producing, ensure you know what deliverable that is and what work stage that is. And that way, you understand the stages that um, construction work or making a building has to go through. Because now, when you go into a firm, um, they have to go through different stages. They have to go through stage one, stage two, the stage of planning, the stage of sending the work for building regulations to assess, and the stage of the work actually beginning on site. You need to understand what the deliverables are at every stage. So prior to getting into a firm, in fact, have a certain degree of understanding. Yeah, so that's my advice. Also, learn about methods of procurement. Yeah, there's a traditional form of procurement and there's the design and built form of procurement. Learn about those and learn about those a bit more. At university, I didn't get the chance to learn it properly. We sort of learned about it for like a month, and and it was all online, and there wasn't much interaction or discussion between yourself and the tutor. um in terms of understanding it, I wasn't quite proficient at it. So understand what the methods of procurement are, whether it's traditional, design and built, and understand if you are to get hired, what your company is using. Forms of appointment, understand whether it's a bespoke form of appointment or whether it's a standard RIBA form of appointment that your firm uses, or just understand what forms of appointments they are out there. Understand also contract types. Those are the three things. Understand contract types, forms of procurement, um, forms of appointment. Like understand those things, and of course, once you understand them, you'll be able to now um, understand which ones your company use once you get hired. These are very important when you're filling in your PEDR quarterly sheets, because these are the sorts of things they ask you when you're filling it in. What form of appointment did your firm use? What method of procurement did they use? What stock contract types did they use? What RIBA work stage are you currently working out with this particular job? So you need to learn those things. So that's my advice. Also, what other advice can I give? There will be times when someone may think this profession isn't for you. right? And this is a very important advice. In fact, people may think the profession isn't for you, right? Which they shouldn't. Nobody should ever think something is for someone, right? You don't have you're not qualified to make such a statement. But what I would say is, um, do not focus on their weakness. By have a paradigm shift. By that, what I mean is, if someone is making such a insensitive statement, or they're making such a statement which is, um, or they have the audacity to make such a statement about your life, about you, do not focus on that. Focus on the things you can control. Take accountability for perhaps why they may be saying this, yeah, and focus on developing those skills. Focus on the things you can control, because them being rude, disrespectful, whatever, now that's something that um is out of your control, and you can't control that, right? So you just have to focus on the things that are within your control. So that's what I would say. That's my advice. Do not be deterred by people's opinion. Like I said, architecture, you need to have a thick skin, because if the external environment or people's subjective opinions about you is what gives you confidence, or what lifts you up, or what puts you down, this career can never be for you, because it's very subjective. Like I said, people are always going to say negative things about your work. Do not look at it as negativity, look at it as criticism, in fact, right? And try and take accountability for some of those things they say to you, because every time clients don't like your work, that's as simple as that. So you just have to listen to what they want and create that. So that's what I would say. That's my advice. um there'll be times when perhaps, like I said, a mentorship system, or a mentor and you as a mentee may not align, whether it's you think they're pompous or whatever. Now, it doesn't matter, right? You need to be proactive in order to overcome that. You need to be able to um, understand your current situation and get the most out of it. You have to use people to acquire knowledge. You have to make yourself you have to make yourself more valuable to the marketplace. By that, what I mean is, you need to use people around you. Use people around you to acquire the knowledge that you need to have a better production capacity. Because at the end of the day, it's all about statistics in whatever walks of life you're in. Whether it's football, no matter how flashy, how technical you are, how much pace, athleticism, how much of a showman you are, if you don't score so amount of goals, you don't make so amount of assists, you are in fact a useless player. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So it is the same with architecture. You have to produce. So in order for you to produce, you have to use people around you. Be empathetic about whether you're disturbing them or not. Don't be like that. If you think like that, then you will never go up to them. So you have to be unempathetic, yeah, in terms of that, and just use them to make yourself a more valuable employee. Yeah, that's really those are really the facts about it. And eventually it will make you a valuable employer. You may end up being an employer one day, but you have to acquire that knowledge in the first place. So that's my advice. Do not be shy in seeking for help, whether it's in in the firms, whether it's at university. Always be proactive. Yeah, be proactive in seeking knowledge. Yeah, always go out there seeking for knowledge, and do not hesitate to do that. So that's my advice. um and again, do not be deterred if there is an obstacle, if there's a setback. Do not be deterred by that. Learn from it, um grow from it, and reflect on it. That's really what I would say. So yeah, I think I've that's all the advice I really have at this stage. If there's any more things I can shed light on, just comment below and I'll make sure I add that in my next video. But yeah, let's get into the last bit now. Welcome back. Now, last but not least, right? Is architecture for me? Is for you? Now, like I said before, anyone that's on their journey right now, before you get to that stage where you feel like, oh, I feel like quitting now. Like I said, a lot of people face imposter syndrome in architecture. Remember, like I said earlier, it's a long journey. There'll be times where you do not understand a lot of things. Things will not click. It's a long journey. Yeah, if you stick at it, eventually you're gonna start understanding things, right? Let me use football. There'll be times when, say you're taking the free kick, you hit the ball will go over the bar. You skied it, it's over the bar. Yeah. Now, if you reflect on that, you skying the ball, you realize you got under it too much. So you hit it maybe halfway up the ball, and it may be perfect and go top bins, or you may end up hitting the wall. But that's an improvement from the first part. But you will not do that unless you take several shots to get to that point. You realize what the sweet spot is. So you have to keep hammering at it, keep learning, keep acquiring knowledge, keep being proactive, and eventually you'll get there. And also, always remember it's a long journey. Your position today is not going to be the same tomorrow. And always remember, no matter how terrible you're feeling and how lost you're feeling, just remember when you started your journey, you was even more lost. You get it? You was finished. You was blind, and now you're gaining a bit of sight, and you're being ungrateful for how much knowledge you've gained. Always remember and always reflect, right, on that and how long the journey is, and where you were when you started. That's something you have to always keep in mind with architecture. Yeah. So before you decide whether it's for you or not, remember that. For me, architecture is definitely for me. Um, I want to be able to create homes, spaces that change people's lives, whether that's here, whether that's in Africa, my home continent, my home country. Yeah, it doesn't matter really to me. I appreciate architecture. I appreciate the ability to create homes and make spaces for everyone. Because if you really think about it, everyone that goes to work, they go to work to acquire a home. Do you understand how much power that gives architects? So really, you're providing a space that everyone is working to acquire. So that's it's definitely something for me, right? Um, and yeah, you just gotta look at the end goal, the end result every time you are hit with an obstacle, and realize it's just a journey, it's a learning curve. Reflect on it, grow from it, and eventually you will get there. So that's really my take on whether architecture is for me. So anyone in your family, anyone that's watching this video who is at that point where they think, it's not for me, it's too much for me, um, okay, that's fine as well, you know. But also just remember, the grass is not always green on the other side. You may go do something else and you're hit with the same stumble, right? Just remember, if you keep hammering at things, if you don't understand something, go out there and seek the knowledge that will help you, because people fear what they don't understand. That's why a lot of people drop out halfway through the year. Half the people dropped out my year because they didn't understand it. It was a new language. But when you understand the language, you now understand what they're saying. You're not able to create what they're telling you to create. So that's just all it is, right? It's just about understanding. Do not fear what you don't understand. Learn to understand it first. So yeah, that's my advice. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in today. Make sure you like, you smash the like button, you subscribe, you stay tuned with me as we go along this journey, and I'll make sure to create similar content to this, answering any queries you may have. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in today. Peace.